Yeah, I am a bitch. You're right. Why do you gotta keep bringing it up?
Because, your image on stage and, like I said, social media and things.
So my sister, she's one of those people who blames and excuses her behavior on her zodiac sign. Are you familiar with this idiot, bitch? Are you this idiot?
Do you think that's taken any opportunity away from you?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah?
It has. I know it has. And I've kind of like.
How do you balance that?
I mean, I think since I was a kid, I've just been very comfortable with the fact that I would rather be myself, or I would rather make sure that I'm happy. And, that doesn't mean that I'm always happy, of course. I still have to deal with some of the repercussions of my own actions. I know that. But I'm also like, good. Like actions have consequences. I'm a big believer in that. And, I'm even now, it's like I have to grow and I have to like figure out what the next move is and figure out like what I really want to do in terms of like the next hour and the touring and all that shit. And it's also that thing of like, if I'm not accepted as myself, I don't want to be accepted.
Yeah. 100%.
And I think that's the big part for me. And it's interesting because I literally was just having some of these thoughts earlier today, because I was like, oh yeah, if I hadn't done that, I'd probably be doing this right now, but again, it's like, I'm very much like, I want to be known as me in the same way that like, I think we all know that Patrice O'Neal really struggled with, how his personality really hindered his career. And he knew that.
Yes.
And Mark Maron is another great example of someone who took, some of the bad he had in the past and he, flipped it on its head when he started doing the WTF pod. And so I'm in that space right now too, where I'm kind of trying to be like, okay, what do I do with this now that I'm a little more in the world of this industry, now that I have this special, and what's the next move, and how do I continue to be embraced as myself? And I feel very fortunate that like I've been able to get away with what I've been able to get away with, and I just want to basically keep getting away with my own bullshit.
Do you feel like, because the big new thing on Instagram is clips, crowd work clips.
Wait, can I also add something else to that?
Yeah.
Because I think that exactly what you said earlier, where it's like, oh, when I meet you, you were so nice, and then on your persona on stage or on Twitter, it's like it's whatever, it's aggressive. I'm a bitch, basically. But I'm like, but I'm still nice. Do you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, I'm still a good person, and I sleep well knowing that. Like I'm not like some vindictive asshole, jealous, like not rooting for people. Like I'm a very good person. I just have a attitude.
No, but you are a great person. I do know that. And that's why it's kind of like I brought up earlier. It's like, you say that your image online is a bitch, but I never saw that. So, I mean, nobody's ever brought that up to me, but I would be like, no, she's a great person. That's
sure. Yeah. And I also know that like, the concept of like a woman being a bitch is like, it's so hard for people to understand that like, is she being a bitch, or did she just not give you what you wanted? Is she being a bitch, or did she, tell you the truth? Is she being a bitch, or you know what I mean? And I think that also going back to like the younger generation, they're more inclined to understand that like, oh, a woman has an attitude not for no reason, like, dude, one time I opened for Phoebe Robinson pretty regularly, and one time she tagged me on her Instagram stories because she was doing like one of those Q&As you submit, and somebody was like, your opener was like really mean to me, and at this one LA show, and she was like, my opener was Marcella, and mean to you? What did you say to her? Because you must have said something, because she's not a bitch. She reacts, but she's not a bitch. And she was right. And that girl even admitted, because she heckled me and she said some wild shit to me, and I simply reacted. And then that's what I always find interesting, is that people's inability to accept their role in my reactions,
And let me tell you, it's a thing where I feel like the big trend, and I was leading to the big trend on the Instagram right now, is crowd work clips.
Sure.
And I feel like now you can't go on stage without people just yelling stuff from the audience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's, look, if you're great at it, that's phenomenal, and it's blowing up certain people, and that's great. But I also think a lot of times for comics that aren't crowd work people, it's not good, because you have people just yelling out stuff trying to get on Instagram. Do you feel the same way?
I do, but I'm also good at I am good at crowd work. So like
Yeah.
I'm good at being able to regulate. You know, I've also opened for headliners who don't want to ever do crowd work, and I've always been a good like feature spot for them because I'm good at regulating like which person I can get to shut the fuck up and which
Yeah.
person I can tell the staff like they need to go because I will not shut the fuck up, and that's going to be a problem for the headliner, because not every headliner likes it. Um and it's tricky, and I agree. Like I have noticed people heckle way more than they ever
Oh,
have
it's
before.
especially in Vegas. I mean, it's
I
like
believe it.
people trying to be on clips now. It's
I
like,
know, it's weird.
yeah, but look, no knock to the people that are blowing up from it, but
I mean, I do knock that a little bit. We should knock it a little
do
bit.
you think so?
They're posting too many. You know what I really don't like? I saw, who was it, Matt Rife, who like he was like, "You guys need to stop coming to my shows and heckling." It's like, bro, you got to stop posting these fucking clips because like
Yeah.
you can't, keep posting the thing and then complain about it. You can't. It
Yeah,
doesn't make
if you're
sense.
if your whole thing is posting interaction with the audience and then being like, "Yo, you got all these young girls screaming at you." I mean, that's what you're posting.
Yeah,
That's what people
Yeah.
you're
Blaming the victim here, and
yeah,
you're right.
and here's the thing: we are what we post. Whether you
Absolutely.
don't believe in social media or not, you are what you post.
Absolutely.
Well, bitch, grow up. Let's talk about that. Bitch, grow up. HBO Max. Like, was there any relief of doing it and relief and stress? Because I've shot 2 specials, and it's a thing where once you release it, you're like, oh my god, I got to create new stuff. Or
Yeah.
did you already have a bunch of stuff, and this was just 30 minutes of the chunk you already have?
Yeah, a little bit of both because I was actually I had an I recorded it in July, and in April or May or something right before that, I was recording an album because I was like, I'm done with this material. This material is done.
Yeah.
Like, you just know when you're fucking sick of telling these jokes. And I was like, oh, let's record this album. It'll be my second album, whatever. Nobody wants my material, so fuck it, let's do an album. Bro, I had the worst weekend probably ever. Probably ever. And we recorded it. And it was funny because those jokes that I love that killed did terrible, bombed. I had to go to crowd work. I had to go to like old stories that I never tell on stage because that weekend was like so weird. And we're still gonna release that album pretty soon. But
Where was it
uh
at? Can you say?
in Fort Collins, and it's interesting because I've performed there plenty of times before. The Comedy Fort, I love their venue. Their audience is usually on point. That's why I chose that space. But it was like graduation weekend,
Uh,
and like hella like parents and grandparents were home, and it was funny because you think that they'd be the problem, but sometimes it was like the student was like uncomfortable that their grandparent was laughing at a sex joke or something, and that's what
yeah.
made it kind of even more funny. It was like it's not like people are not having a good time; they're just not having a good time with each other.
Yeah, I got you.
So that kind of sucked, but then it was like now I still have all this material. So when I got that call in, I think June, so it must have been like 1 or 2 months after that, I was like, oh, perfect. I can do all this material that I was ready to get rid of. And it was a trip when I was editing the album after editing the special because I was like, wow, I'm literally hearing me bomb on a joke that crushes on the HBO special. And it's also that thing of like, yes, comedy is objective. And like, it's also funny to me that like you can have jokes that get an applause break that a room full of people will fucking not respond to, like will
Yeah.
not like.
Yeah, that's what I love about comedy, man. It's literally no matter what show you do, you get exact same setup and everything, 2 different
Yep.
responses.
Two different responses.
And it's so humbling too when you sell a lot of tickets somewhere and you go somewhere else and it's like, yo, nobody's here.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it though.
Yeah.
Until you get to the Sebastian, Bill Burr, Joe Coy, whatever that level, where everywhere you go is going to be sold out.
And you know what? I'm not in a rush to get there. Like
Yeah.
I always think about that. Like I have always loved that Bill Burr's first hour was when he was 40. I love that little fact because I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how it should be. Also, people are more interesting when they're older, anyways.
Yeah, it's true.
And I keep thinking like I am not in a rush to like do sold out theaters, and that's where I try my new shit or hope that and then because they already love me, they're down, and then you don't know if the material is actually weak or if it's strong. Like I have
Yeah.
no desire to get there quick.